Hi there. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Let me start with a quick intro of Provus. Provus was founded on a simple belief. Services business deserves better tools than spreadsheets for quoting and revenue management. For too long, services teams have been forced to choose between the enterprise CPQ systems that take months to implement and Excel files that don't scale. We built AI-first CPQ software that sits in the middle, structured enough to protect margin and align sales with delivery, simple enough that a rep or a founder can build a code themselves on day one. Our products are used by services organizations ranging from fast-growing SMEs to the global technology firms. Leading that effort from India is the team you will hear from today. Let me start with my quick introduction. I'm Nikhil, VP Engineering and India Head at Provus, responsible for engineering across our product portfolio and overall operations here in India. I have spent 26 years in enterprise software at companies including Microsoft, McAfee, Conga, and now at Provus. At Conga, I led CPQ engineering, where we built one of the most capable product CPQ solutions in the market. Product CPQ is excellent at what it does: configuring products, applying pricing rules, generating codes from a catalog. But what I kept seeing was the services businesses, the ones selling consulting engagements, implementation projects, managed services, were trying to force fit their work into a product CPQ, and which was never designed for them. And the result was always the same. The CPQ handled the structure part, and everything else, the effort estimates, the staffing assumptions, the delivery timelines, went back to Excel. And that gap stayed with me. It is that reason Provus exists, and it is the problem CPQ Express is built to solve. Across those years, I kept seeing the same patterns repeat, regardless of the size of the company or the complexity of the deals. If you're running sales yourself, you probably have a spreadsheet that works for now, and you know it will not scale. If you lead a sales team, you have seen the pricing file fork into 5 versions and nobody knows which one is right. If you're in operations, you have rebuilt the same code in Excel for a finance review and wondered why that's still your job. And if you run delivery, you have inherited a staffing plan from a deal that you were never part of and spent the first 2 weeks fixing it. Most services organizations live with all four of these problems at the same time, not because they have not tried to fix them, but because the tools available have not made it easy enough to do differently. So when we built Provus Enterprise Service CPQ, we carried those lessons forward. But with AI, we started asking a different question. If we were building a services CPQ from scratch today, not porting the old architecture, what would we do differently? And that question led to CPQ Express. So over the next 45 minutes, we are going to show you what happens when AI sits at the beginning of that process, not bolted on at the end, but actually doing the structural work that requires specialists. Joining me today is Uma, who has been at the center of both the vision and the build of CPQ Express. In today's session, Uma is also going to play the role of a service lead who does coding himself. Uma, over to you.
Thanks, Nikhil. Hi, everyone. I'm Umamaheswaran, technical architect at Provus. So I've spent 14 years building enterprise software across multiple cloud providers, SaaS platforms, cloud native systems, and AI-powered applications. So I have architected and built the core platforms and services that applications such as CPQ, CLM, and incentive management run on top of, giving me a deep understanding of the systems from the ground up, how they're engineered, how they scale, and how they ultimately impact the people using them. So that experience is a big part of what shaped how we built CPQ Express.
Nice. Thanks, Uma. So before we get into a demo, just a few housekeeping items. First of all, thank you for joining us. You can use the chat or Q&A to submit questions and share your insights. We'll follow up on any unanswered questions if you run out of time. And the recording of this webinar will be shared in next 24 hours. Okay. So before we actually dive deeper into the demo, one question that we always get: Provus already has an enterprise CPQ. So why did we build another one? Your thoughts, Umar?
Good question. So enterprise CPQ solves deep, complex coding really well, but we kept meeting services teams who had the same pain, but had no appetite for a long-term implementation. So they wanted something useful on day one, not after a 12-week rollout. So they didn't want to like spend on spreadsheets or a solution expert for every estimate. And they wanted a product built for how services teams actually code, not a product that got adapted from a product CPQ. So that gap is exactly what led to CPQ Express.
Perfect. And we are not building a smaller version of enterprise CPQ here. We are we are solving a different problem with CPQ Express. And to be clear about who CPQ Express is built for, right? This is a product designed for SMB and commercial services team. If you are running a 10 to 100% services businesses or leading a commercial segment within a larger firm, this is built for you. Enterprise CPQ still remains the right choice for larger, more complex deployments that need deep configuration and longer implementation cycle. But today is about the other end of the spectrum. And the question we asked ourselves when building for this segment was simple. If we put AI at the center of services quoting from day one, can a team get from a customer conversation to a customer ready code on their own without spreadsheets, without specialists, and without waiting? And that is the product you are about to see. So, Uma, walk us through your role and the scenario we heard most um, from our customer surveys.
Sure, Nikhil. So for today's session, think of me as a head of a small services firm. So I just got off a call with Meridian Financial this morning. It's a mid-sized financial services firm headquartered in Chicago. So they are evaluating a cloud migration and want a proposal by the end of the week. So I have everything from the call, three phases, a rough timeline, consulting heavy in the middle. What I do not have is 2 days and a solution architect. So let me just build this live. I'll share my screen and we will go from zero to a quote ready for the customer. Let me just share my screen.
Sure. So before Uma can build a code, the system needs to know what his firm sells and at what rates. In a traditional CPQ, this is where the project stalls, right? Workshops, construction cycles, admin training before a single code is possible. For CPQ Express, we wanted a team to be ready to code on the same day they decide to use it. So over to Uma for the demo.
Sure. So I'm starting from a clean org. So this is what a new user sees when they first open CPQ Express. So there is a guided setup in the checklist. You need to like set up account, roles, product, add-ons. So the app tells me exactly what needs to be there, what needs to be set up. And the AI assistant is right there from the first screen if I need any help. So my firm's rate card is already lives in a spreadsheet from the previous system. So instead of rekeying every role, I'll hand that file to the AI assistant and let it load them. So I'm going to ask my AI assistant to import these resource roles from the attachment. So 5 roles loaded straight from the spreadsheet, no column mapping, no separate forms. The assistant reads the file, maps the column to bill rate and cost and import it. So now let me add the fixed fee offerings we also sell. So just add one product called Cloud Readiness Assessment, which has a fixed fee of 15,000, and an add-on called Premium Support, which costs $5,000. So the initial setup is fast, and as my business evolves, I can add new roles simply by describing them to the AI assistant. No manual configuration is required.
Nice. And this is the moment that separates AI first from AI bolted on. In most of the tools, AI either writes a summary after you have built the structure or it suggests edit to something that you have already configured manually. In CPQ Express, as you observed, there are multiple ways you can get your data imported, right? Like one, you can just import the data from the existing file, or you can just create a command. And AI creates the structure from a plain English description before a single form field is open. And now that we have the catalog ready, I think Uma is ready to build the code.
Sure. So Meridian Financial is a new customer. Before I create a code, I need them in the system. So I don't have to open an account form. Let me just ask my AI assistant to like create it. So I can say create an account for Meridian Financial. I'll add some description. Financial services form. Headquarter in Chicago. So the account is created. Now the code. So this is exactly how I would describe the engagement to a colleague after the call. So let me just clean up. So I want my AI to like generate a code for a cloud migration engagement for Meridian Financial. Create 3 phases named assessment for 6 weeks, migration for 16 weeks, and stabilization for 4 weeks. So I'm also like mentioning the roles that needs to be used. So let me just go ahead and generate this code. The AI going to look into all the catalog items and then figure out the best resources that will be suitable for this particular code. So the AI has generated a code, duration, start week, description. It also added phases, roles, and it also made an effort estimation, dates, line items. So all this done by a single prompt. So the system has built the full structure from the description, um, all pulling from the catalog rates we just set up.
Nice. Let's just pause to see what just happened. So Umar did not open a single phase, open a phase configuration screen. He did not look up role codes or effort tables. He described the engagement in the words he would have used with his own team, and the system built the structure. The translation work, converting business intent into a code structure, used to require a group of people or a very experienced sales ops person. Now it just took a couple of sentences.
Sure. So I can keep tuning this plan if needed. So for now, I don't want to like keep tuning it. So I'd rather turn it into a real code and shape it there where I can see everything. So I'll create it right away. Create the code. So now this system will actually like process the code in the system and it is ready to be viewed now. So let me open the code. So as soon as you open the code, you immediately see what is the total amount, what is the margin, if there is any discount, what is the start date, end date, etc. I also have a summary view where uh, the page shows me uh, type breakdown, like what is your labor revenue, what is your product revenue, what is your add-on revenue. And it also has an item type breakdown by cost and margin. So you can see the cost and margin between the resource roles, products, add-ons. It also does a phase-wise breakdown. So this is where I get a visual read on the deal without doing any math. So the breakdown by type shows me where the money sits, labor versus products versus add-ons. So the margin breakdown tells me at a glance whether the deal is healthy. So I can understand the shape of the whole code in a few seconds. So now let me show the structure underneath it. I'm opening the line items tab. So this is the code broken down into phases and line items. So every role, every quantity, every rate, and every date, all of it is editable by hand if I want. But the more interesting part is that I can do all of it just by asking. So let me run through a range of what AI can do to a live code, live save code. So let me open my AI assistant. So So let's say I need to like change the scope of my project. So on the call, Meridian asked us to like include a readiness assessment upfront. So I'll add that product to phase one. So let me just say add the cloud readiness assessment product to the phase one, which is assessment. So I'll say assessment phase.
Maybe you can collapse the left side menus for us to see the screen fully. Cool, thanks.
Sure. So let's say you have you have staffing across the whole engagement, and I don't want junior analyst to be involved in this project. So let me go ahead and remove junior analyst. Remove junior analyst from all the phases. And it is asking me to confirm since there are multiple instances. So I'm going to say remove all. So now the junior analyst has been removed from all the phases. I can also like do it or I can be like much more surgical with my edits. So let's say I want to like trim the scope. Phase three is lighter than we first thought. So I'll drop a business analyst from it. So I'll say remove the senior consultant role from the stabilizations. Yeah. So now that's also done. And one thing when it comes to quoting is the timeline shifts. So the customer budget approval slipped and the middle phase needs more runway. So I'll move the start date and extend phase two in one single instruction. So let me just ask AI assistant to push the engagement start to the first Monday of next month. So that would be July 6th, 2026. And extend the migration phase by 2 weeks. So let me just confirm. And with single comment, so all my dates got updated and the engagement has been pushed by 2 weeks. I'm also like now seeing more runway for my middle phase. So Meridian is a new customer. So let us offer 10% discount to them. So in a spreadsheet, applying that across every line is tedious and easy to get wrong. Let me just use AI assistant. That would be much more simpler. So I'll say like apply a 10% discount to the entire code. So it is done. My discount got updated. My margin got reduced. So every one of those was a single sentence, adding scope, staffing across phases, removing role, shifting the timeline, discounting at the quote or phase level, setting margin. The AI did the structural work and recalculated everything on the saved code with nothing for me to wire up by hand.
Nice. I call it a conversational code creation process. Fast first draft, easy refinement, the structure that follows the catalog. Anuma just built this by himself. And the time it takes to describe the engagement with no spreadsheet and no specialist. And that's the value that CPQ Express adds, right? But a number on a paper only tells half of the story. The other half is what it actually takes to deliver that number. So, Uma, before you move on to the next tab, can you tell us what delivery team typically sees when they inherit a code like this one?
So most often, usually they are seeing it for the first time. So after the deal is signed, the role assumptions were made by someone on the sales side who was estimating. not someone who actually had to stop the engagement. By the time delivery flags a conflict, the customer has already committed to a timeline. So this is exactly the problem Resource Planner is designed to prevent. So let me just show you by opening the resource allocation. So this is a week by week view of staffing by roles across full engagement. You can see the senior consultant load concentrated in middle phase, exactly as I described when I created the code. So my delivery team can review this before the deal is signed and flag any conflicts before we are committed.
This is one of the most important ideas in CPQ Express. We are not just helping people like Umar to produce a number. We are helping his firm understand what it is committing to deliver. Most services businesses discover staffing conflicts after the deal is closed. The resource planner moves that conversation before the quote is approved, which is when it is still possible to do something about it. So, Ma, now that the staffing plan is visible and agreed, what else do you need to get this code to do in this code before it goes to the customer?
The staffing plan tells us what we need to deliver, but the customer's first question when they receive this quote will be, when does everything actually happen? When do we
Hmm.
start? When does each phase end? When can they expect the go live? Right? So and typically that answer lives in a completely separate document, a project plan document or a slide deck that someone puts together after the quote is signed. So the problem in those two documents, they rarely stay in sync. The customer signs the commercial terms and then sees a delivery schedule that looks slightly different, and that gap creates confusion before the work has even started. So we made the timeline part of the code itself. Let me just open the timeline tab. So the phases are already plotted based on the dates in the code. So now I'll add a milestone that matter to the customer in plain English, the same way I built everything else. So let's say like we need a headline event. The one date that everyone asks for is about go live, right? So I'll add it on the migration phase end date. So let me switch to month view so that it is easier for me to view. So I want to add a go live end date on the mid of December. So let me just add a milestone. I can add a milestone here, or I can also like use my AI assistant to do that. So let me just add a go live milestone on 2026, 15th, mid of December, and make it green. Yeah. So now I see a go live milestone in my code. And this will be available in all the places where we are showing the code in the PDF, etc. So let me just also add a hard deadline. Meridian has a regulatory date by which the whole engagement has to land before. So I'll mark the project completion as a deadline so it stands out, right? So, and I'll add the project completion date to the first week of Jan. So I'll add a project completion deadline on 2027. You know, so this time let me make it green. Make it or red. So granted, but oops. So okay. Good that AI flags me that I'm using a date that is not making sense. So I'll say 2027 01. Okay. So now I see both the milestones here. So every one of those milestones now shows in the code and also in the customer facing document once the code is approved. When Meridian's Financial receives this, the commercial commitment and the delivery schedule are on the same document.
And we built this feature because this helps reduce the specific kind of post-sale friction. The customer doesn't receive a quote and then 2 weeks later a separate project plan with different dates. They see both in one single document at the point of signing. And that sets a better expectation and reduces the negotiation down the line. So now that we have the structure right, the staffing plan is visible, and the timeline is also looking good. Before this goes to the customer, what else do we need to check on this quote?
So before I send anything, I want to know whether this deal actually making business sense. So the total is visible on the summary tab, but what I really want to see is how the revenue lands across the year, whether the margin is healthy enough to take it to approval, and whether the headcount peaks at a point my team can absorb. In most firms, someone has to rebuild the code in a spreadsheet to get those answers. So that is a time that nobody has, and it is the same data presented twice. So let me just pull up the financials tab. On the code, financials tab. So I can see the cash inflow by period, headcount by period, and a combined view. Uh, and it is also toggleable between monthly, quarterly, yearly. So for this engagement, the revenue is weighted toward in the middle of the year when the phase two is running, and the headcount peaks in week 7 through 20. So I can see whether the deal is financially healthy before I submit it for approval. No Excel rebuild is required.
Yeah, and like from our conversations with various stakeholders, what we realized that different stakeholders need different answers from the same code. The person sending it needs to know when it's ready. A manager needs to know if the deal is healthy. Finance team needs to know whether like when the revenue lands, and the leadership team needs to know if it makes business sense. And this financial tab gives all those answers from one single place without anyone having to reconstruct the model. So at this point of time, I think the code has everything that it needs, and the like deal looks good, financially healthy. So what stands between this and the customer now?
Approvals. And
Hmm.
this is the part that quietly kills deals in a lot of organizations. Either the code skips review when something slips through, or it gets stuck in an email chain waiting for a manager to respond, right? And by the time it is approved, the customer has already moved on. So we wanted neither of those outcomes. So the approval process in CPQ Express is part of the coding workflow itself, not a separate process that lives outside the tool. So let me just submit this code for approval with a comment. Please do this. So once a code is submitted for approval, the status of the code becomes pending approval until it is locked for editing. Nothing changes while it is under review. Behind the scenes, a manager can go to the code with uh, and uh, and they can comment if they want to make any changes, etc. So
So let
Nikhil, is
me,
what goods? Yeah.
sure, yeah. So like I'm acting as Uma's manager in this context. So I'm looking at the code, and as I go to the course and the key insights screen, so if you can navigate to the code in the code landing page, I can see that there is one code pending my approval. So I open the code, I check the account is correct, financial looks good, but wait, the margin seems quite low to me, 12.8. So I'm going to reject this code for now, and I'm going to say that like remove. So what I'm proposing to Uma is remove the 10% discount across phases and only apply, let's say 15% discount to the assessment phase. So that should increase our margin. So I'm going to reject the code from my side. And now if like once Uma refreshes the screen, we'll say that the code has been rejected.
So I'm seeing the code as rejected. Let me open the code. I can see the comment from Nikhil. So he's asking me to remove the 10% discount across the phases, only apply a 15% discount to the assessment phase. Sure. So let me make those changes. I can say remove the quote level discounts. Yeah. So now the quote level discount has been removed. Let me add a 15% discount to the assessment phase alone. So I'll say apply a 15% discount to the assessment phase only. So it's done, looking good. So let me resubmit it for approval.
Let me refresh my screen and I'll see a code waiting for my approval. So I'm taking a look, I'm looking at the code, and the margin has gone up from 12.8 to 19.1%. This looks good to me. So I think let me for now just approve the code. Looks uh, I'm just putting a small note, margin looks ugly now, and approving the code. So I approved the code from my side. Once Uber refreshes, we'll see that the code has been approved.
Okay. So now I see the code got approved. Let me just open the code. So now that it is approved, let me go ahead and generate the PDF. So a branded PDF is generated immediately, and every version is saved with a financial snapshot. So if the code changes after I have sent a version to the Meridian Financial, there is a record of what exactly they received and what the numbers were at that moment. That matters because deals evolve and scope changes. Having a clear record of what was sent, when, and what is the commercial terms were at that point protects both the sides. So now one more thing before the code goes out. Most teams want the signed document back without chasing email threads, and they want the one deal to flow into their PSA or the project management tool without someone copying it across manually. So let me show you how that works. Let me navigate to the settings page and go to integrations. So with one-click connect options, you can integrate with tools like HubSpot, DocuSign, PSA tools, and others. So in the integration with DocuSign can data a common PSA tool, and several others are available as one-click connections. Once connected, signature requests go out directly from the code, and the deal is won. The engagement details flow into your delivery system automatically. So there is no manual handoff is needed. So with that, the code is approved and ready to send. Meridian Financial gets one document that covers the commercial terms, the staffing plan, the timeline, and the financials, everything they need to say yes.
Nice. And I think this is worth pausing on for a moment, right? So in an enterprise CPQ implementation, connecting to DocuSign or a PSA tool is typically a professional services engagement on its own. Configuration, mapping, testing, sometimes weeks of work. In CPQ Express, it is just one click setup as Uma has shown you on the screen. And that is the same philosophy that runs throughout everything that you have seen today. The things that used to require specialists are built and ready to go from day one. Do you want to go back, Omar, to the code and like sorry, the PDF and then like share what all we can put in there what all our users can customize?
Yeah. So let me just open the PDF settings. So in PDF settings, you can customize the layout of the screen, the colors of the PDF, and you can also like upload your own custom logo. And if you want to like reorder the sections, you can do that like simply by dragging and saving them. And with that, the code is approved, the PDF is versioned, integrations are ready, and Meridian Financial gets one more document that covers the commercial terms, the staffing plan, the timeline, and the financials. So everything they need to say yes.
Nice. And that brings us to the end of today's session. Let's just take a quick moment to recap what that journey looked like. So Uma began this session with a discovery call and invoked AI assistant in CPQ Express. From there, he finished with a structured, approved, customer-ready proposal built entirely by himself. And the time it took to describe the engagement. No spreadsheets, no specialist, and no waiting. No form filling, like he didn't even open a single form or like type it into fields that is typically required to create a code. And that is what AI first actually means. Not a chatbot added to an existing process, but AI sitting at the beginning of the coding workflow, doing the structural work that used to require specialists, multiple tools, and multiple review cycles. So, Ma, now that you have just built this, what what stood out for you?
What struck me most is how connected it all felt. So I never left the workflow, catalog, code creation, resource planning, timelines, financials, approvals. It was one continuous flow, not a set of separate tools I had to stitch together. So the structure that AI created at the very beginning carried all the way through to the document I would send to the customer. I never had to stop, switch screens, or rebuild anything in a spreadsheet.
Cool. Thanks. Great. So before we open up for questions, a quick note for everything joining us today. If you want to experience this with one of your engagements, head to provus.ai backslash CPQ Express and sign up for a 2-week free trial. Once you are in, describe one real engagement that you're working on right now and see what comes back. And that is the more honest test than any demo we could run in. Thank you for spending this time with us today. We're looking forward to your questions. So let me just pick a couple of questions that we have received. Uh, okay, can we customize the PDF output? Yes, I think I have just shown the PDF settings in the section controls. Import existing data. Yes, so like you can import roles, products, add-ons, all can be imported. You don't have to start from zero. Anuma did that at the beginning of the demo. Cool. I think that's about all the questions. So thanks, Uma, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.